and welcome back to the Pop Culture Powerhouses. It's been a hot minute because there's been so much stuff coming out, but we are back, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for our two new Pop Culture Powerhouses to take place so that we can break them down on 6 categories: iconicness, individuality, quality of adaptations, legacy, relatability, and personal preferences. This week,
yeah, go on.
This week we've got Starkiller versus Nightwing.
Mm.
So I doubt you remember at this point, Ori. Starkiller was one of your suggestions many, many months ago. And I was looking at him.
I can guess that this was my suggestion because I know you well enough, but it's definitely an out there.
Well, I was like, Starkiller's a bit out there. He was a bit niche. I was like, what kind of equivalent can I think of? So I kind of fell on the prodigal son of a franchise's most beloved character, Darth Vader's prodigal son in Starkiller, and Batman's prodigal son in Nightwing.
Yeah, I get the choice of the pairing.
Yes, and just to make it clear, although Dick Grayson is Nightwing, we are not talking about Dick Grayson, so we're not including his Robin time. This is about Nightwing as a character and how well known he is, because obviously Dick Grayson absolutely wiped Starkiller very, very quickly.
Yeah. Iconicness.
Yes. I feel like to us, Starkiller was really iconic because of the Force Unleashed games being so you have to be there.
I would say in the bubble of Star Wars, like hardcore Star Wars fans and gamers that enjoyed this, like that little Venn diagram of where gamers and Star Wars fans and there's like the crossover, they're obsessed with Starkiller. Like, the hardcore fans fucking love Starkiller, and at any moment there's like a slight hint of it in any shows, they're like, please, is this finally Starkiller? They're adding it. He's like this mythical beast that's just not been brought into live action that everyone's dying to be there.
Oh yeah, I mean, anytime Sam Witwer's got a voice line credit in a random project, everyone's like, "It's Starkiller."
It's finally
I'm convinced they keep casting him for random background voice lines just to stir a bit of that reaction.
People reckon like there's so many times where there's like whispery voices, and it's like it could be a line from like when he was Darth Maul, and it's like he has to get credited, but I think they do it on purpose. But like outside of that, even just like your general Star Wars fan that's like watched the films and enjoys them probably has no clue who Starkiller is.
No.
Whereas with Nightwing, I think there's a bit more of a bleed. Obviously, there's the hardcore comic book fans, the ones that know of Nightwing, that obviously know all the Robins and what they went on to then become. And obviously, we're focused on just on Nightwing. And they love him, that character, great character. Outside of, I think the ones that have watched just the Batman films might not know of Nightwing, but the gamers will. I think there's a little bit more of a bleed of like knowing of Nightwing rather than Starkiller.
I would say the last 5-10 years have really done some hard work for Nightwing, because Nightwing's existed since, I want to say the 80s. It might be the 90s.
Okay.
Like, that's how long Dick Grayson hasn't been Robin for. So like, he's been around for a while, but obviously Nightwing is never as a concept going to be as big as Robin, because Robin is the sidekick for one of the biggest superheroes to ever exist.
Yeah.
But people love Dick Grayson so much, eventually, like you say, there's been a bit of bleed where like, what's Dick been doing when he's not Robin? And then Teen Titans got quite popular via the cartoons and Young Justice, where he also becomes Nightwing. So I think it did, with kids who grew up watching like Cartoon Network, another generation got grabbed and introduced to Nightwing there. So if they then got into comics and they were like, I don't like Jason, I don't like Tim, I don't like Damien, they're like, let me go see what my boy Dick Grayson's doing. And they go see that he's Nightwing and he's with the Titans and he's with Starfire or Barbara or whoever, and just absolutely vibing. So I definitely think he's improved, but what I will say, I don't think mass knowledge is equal to iconicness.
True. In which case, I feel like more people would recognize Nightwing over Starkiller if you showed them.
Yes, I
Purely
think so.
because Nightwing's look and outfit is similar to Batman as it should be. Like, that is on purpose. That people will go, oh, that's like the Robin, ex-Robin, sort of like clearly connected to Batman, know kind of what it is
I
from
think
face
the
value.
iconography and like the colours with like the blue stripes and stuff would definitely get a bit more recognition. I do. It's difficult. I wouldn't say either of them are particularly iconic yet,
No.
but I do think you're right that Nightwing would probably get a better twinge of recognition.
I think this kind of does lean into it, but doesn't. But like, I also think the outside audience would be more receptive to Nightwing than Starkiller. Yes, us fans
Yes,
really want Starkiller, but if Starkiller appears, it's like, oh, this is Darth Vader's apprentice. All the people that have just watched the films were like, huh? That doesn't
kind
make
of like the
sense.
reaction to Ahsoka in the Clone Wars. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
Anakin never had an apprentice.
It would be difficult to sell to the general fan, whereas I feel like Nightwing, you're like, oh, this was a Robin who then went,
Yeah,
like, oh, okay. Like,
that's where Dick went.
I think, but you're right, like, iconicness obviously isn't widest, like, reckon how many people know them, but I think in their respective IPs, Nightwing is a more iconic character to the general fan than Starkiller is to the general Star Wars fan.
And I also think that's to an extent even more impressive when you consider that Star Wars as an IP has less to know of.
Yeah.
Star Wars has
Well,
existed since the 80s. Yeah, it's got some comics and it's got some games and stuff, but the depth of people that most people would need to be aware of is much lower. Whereas DC has been going since the 40s. You've got Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman as its core three, and off of that, you've got an offshoot of space and this and that and the other, and Krypton and mystical magic stuff and that. So to know Nightwing is pretty impressive. Before they kind of really started to push Nightwing, in like I said, in the last 5-10 years, they've gone, we're going to put Dick Grayson up on a pedestal, which has definitely helped his cause a bit.
yeah, for sure.
Individuality. We might have right here two of the strongest cases for individuality we've had on Pop Culture Powerhouses.
Yeah. I mean, there is. I guess in my head, I'm a bit like Nightwing. Oh, but that I was about to say Nightwing is slightly less individual because he's an offshoot of Batman. Similar realm of like vibes a little bit. Where Starkiller's like a bit more. He is a bit more unique, but in the sense of just crazy powerful. But like at the end of the day, he's just another crazy powerful Force user.
So, do you want to hear my counter argument to why I think Starkiller is incredibly unique?
Go on.
Because of the decisions you make across the two games being multiple playthroughs, he can inherently be different for more people.
If you're going off with the game's story and stuff,
did they ever give us a canon
story?
Yeah, of what decisions
is.
actually made?
I don't
Like the
know.
true ending type thing.
I don't know. I know they've done comics, and I don't know if that changed what happened in the games.
Okay. Also,
Because
we missed something incredibly important for iconicness.
Go on.
The Force Unleashed created one of the greatest memes in internet history. You promised you would stay away. I lied. I completely forgot that was Force Unleashed until just now.
Jeez. But like, It's tough because obviously you could very easily argue that Starkiller is just another tier of incredibly unique, powerful force user. Yes, he's unique in the sense of he is Darth Vader's apprentice, which is different to that is he's the hidden apprentice. Like there's a
Yes.
lot of uniqueness to the fact of even for Sith, he was a really secret apprentice in that
It was,
sense.
yeah. I, it's difficult because I feel like Nightwing isn't seen as much of an individual now because he kind of started a path.
Hmm.
But it's difficult. I'm not sure I could say they're both incredibly unique characters because of the time they came about. There was less kind of constricting them. They both were
Yeah.
written in a time where there was a bit more freedom. It's very
Yeah.
difficult to say. That one might end up being a draw.
Possibly.
Quality of adaptations.
So Starkiller, you've got the games, you've got
Yeah,
the comics. Maybe
has
he's
it?
in some
It
books.
might be in some Legends books as well.
Possibly. Well, comics and books will class as all the Legends material. Like
Yeah,
that is, and then you've got the games. He hasn't yet been in a show as much as people are hoping.
I'd be amazed if we ever get
I don't
him in a
actually know
show,
what came
apart from maybe in his own separate project. Well, was Starkiller not like a
first.
code name for Luke at one point?
Oh, I don't know. I just don't remember if he came in the comics first or if he was first. I think it was The Force Unleashed.
I think so.
Yeah, the Force Unleashed graphic novel was his first canon appearance,
Okay.
but that presumably came after the games.
I would assume so.
Probably after the first one, then the second game. Obviously, he appeared in at times.
Yes.
So yeah, Force Unleashed. The first game, I think, was his first. At least the graphic novel was his first canon appearance. So, I mean, between novel and game, he's pretty similar as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I guess
There's just
once again,
limited
like,
material.
I think it's also one of the things, like, as I was saying, he's quite individually unique because obviously you can make decisions for him. It's kind
Yeah.
of similar with, like, a lot of people disagree on what the true idea of Starkiller is because you could have played the game on a completely evil playthrough and I could have gone for a completely good playthrough, or
Yep.
does that affect the quality of the adaptations, or is that just a case of there are more adaptations?
I think it's just you could look at it as like there are more adaptations because there is multiple different versions of that story. But I
And
still
is the story well written no matter how you play the game, or is there like a definitive,
I
oh, it's
can't
only
remember
worth doing the
enough.
good playthrough type beat?
I think
Tricky
if
one.
it depends if the graphic novel did come after the game and set like this is the canon storyline, which I think it might have done.
It probably will have had to because of like the killing spree you can go on in the game. It kind of needs to go, yeah, so this is what actually happened if you played the game right. We let you have some fun, but this is what really happened.
Whereas Nightwing's had obviously comic runs,
Let
Teen
me just to make
Titans,
sure I'm not getting myself confused here. Nightwing, I believe, came to be in the 80s.
but he's been in the cartoons. He's been in games. He's been
Yeah.
in obviously he's got comics. He's not been in any shows.
No, wrong. Titans. In the Netflix show Titans, he is Nightwing in that,
Oh,
not Robin.
not in that last one. So
Why is it so difficult to get? Is there
already
one
Nightwing's
dear?
had more adaptations.
Yeah.
I guess then it comes down to our go-to standard has always been
1984.
fair.
So he,
More but mediocre is better than only a couple.
yes, I would also say, while it's always really difficult to have a consistent idea of a character over the course of bordering on 100 years now with Robin, bearing in mind Robin existed in the 40s as well.
Yeah.
I would say Dick Grayson has been one of the most consistent characters. To the point where they tried to tell a different story with Dick Grayson, where he got amnesia and became Rick, because they wanted to do like a different version of Dick Grayson, and they wanted to make him a bit more edgy. And people were like, no, this is horrific. Go back, give us Dick back. And as a result of that, I believe is when they kind of went on this kick of, okay, let's not try and change him, let's just promote him.
Fair.
So now within the comics, you've got this idea of Dick being the future of superheroes. Like Superman is like, one day we'll all die. You will be the leader of the Justice League.
Got you.
Like Superman just looking at this acrobatic little kid and going, you are going to be the best of us. Now watch as I spin this planet.
It's a lot of trauma to put on your shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. So like there is at this point a fair few famous panels of, because the Justice League is huge, right? When we think of the Justice League, we think of like the core six. But in the comics, the Justice League is basically every hero on Earth. And they just get called in when needed. There are times where like it all goes to shit and the Justice League don't have like their space hideout. And they're all like in a room arguing amongst themselves. And Dick is the guy who goes, shut the fuck up and listen to me, I'll get us through this. And that is, I would say, a really good build-up for Dick as a character over the years. I would say at no point has it felt like they've really lost who Dick's going to be. It's just been one continuous journey that makes sense when viewed at a macro level. Yeah, you'll have the weird bits where he's Rick or whatever. But for the most part, if you look at
TV show.
Yeah, if you look at the most part of Dick's arc, it feels like one coherent idea of a person that has evolved over time as a person does.
I think it's fairly solid to say that Nightwing has the better adaptations.
I'd say as a character that's existed since 1984 in Nightwing and is still going strong, it's pretty impressive that people aren't sick of you. If you like, you can't, you don't get away with that much shit.
They've also managed to, like, essentially, which can be a hard thing sometimes, which is they've spun off a Robin to be able to stand on their own, which doesn't always work. With some people are like, those characters fizzle out eventually, whereas, like you say, he's still going. So,
ironically, two of the only examples where people have been spun out and worked on their own are Robins, Jason Todd and Nightwing. Maybe it's just like a weird Robin anti-curse where, you know what, if you do well as Robin, you can survive. Well, ignore the fact that everyone hated Jason Todd as Robin, which is why he got killed off.
Legacy.
Yes. Now, I'm going to say something.
Oh, okay.
Nightwing might have a top 5 DC legacy. Because without him, you don't have the Teen Titans. And the Teen Titans are something that Marvel would give a left nut to have come up with. And have made us successful. Because here's the beauty. The Justice League and the Avengers. The Avengers in the comics are shit compared to the Justice League. The Avengers, for a long time, was a running joke of, oh, this hero doesn't have anything going on right now. What do? Put them on the Avengers. Yeah?
Got you.
Whereas the Justice League's always been quite successful. And then Marvel managed to capture younger readers with Spider-Man. It's like, you could be a hero. And that was lightning in a bottle. That was genius. So what did DC managed to come up with eventually to also capture the minds of young kids? They went, a team of sidekicks, a team of kids, and they're going to be their own thing and it's going to be kick-ass. And it worked. Yeah, they've had some down times, but that all comes from Robin, because Robin is Robin then Nightwing is the Batman of the Teen Titans.
Yeah.
And the Teen Titans, I'd argue, as a team at this point, is just as big as the Justice League in popularity.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's
More rabid fans, at least.
I would agree there. I think you've got like Nightwing is like he has the legacy of like what an ex-Robin has become. Like he has made a strong enough names for himself, and with the Teen Titans and stuff, like you kind of then think, oh, what's the next Robin gonna become? Because of what they did with Nightwing. Whereas like Starkiller's legacy, realistically, Starkiller's legacy is, when do we get him in live action? Like he's so like the hardcore fans are so hyped about Starkiller, which because he's like the mysterious Vader apprentice. We got to play him in a game and he was like badass.
See,
We want him in
when I
live
think of
action.
Starkiller, I think Starkiller's legacy is Sam Witwer.
Well, yeah,
Everything Sam Witwer has like done for Star Wars, I'm like, that starts with Starkiller. He got the job of Starkiller. That got him in the room with the right people, and as a result, he's done a lot of really good stuff for Star Wars.
Yeah.
But that legacy is a lot less noticeable because it is a more behind the scenes thing of a more niche character creating these opportunities.
Yeah, I would agree that Sam Witwer's like the things he's been able to then do off the back of Starkiller is like probably the most of the legacy for Starkiller, other than like this cult fandom that are just waiting for him to appear in live action.
If it ever does happen, the internet will go into meltdown.
Star Wars fandom might actually finally all agree on something being good.
Bit optimistic.
Yeah, but
relatability.
Well, I don't know about you, but I can relate to being Darth Vader's secret apprentice who can absolutely destroy a planet.
See, I'm really struggling here because I relate to being a child soldier, which both of these are.
I mean, I think I don't really know if I relate to either of them. So, I think Nightwing's more so relatable through like the Teen Titans and stuff because the younger kids see that and they're like, oh, the sidekicks and the kids can be the heroes.
It's quite interesting because I think in a lot of ways, conceptually, Starkiller and Nightwing are very similar. They were raised from young by two deeply troubled people.
Yeah.
And they've kind of had to, despite being full of anger, cope and make it out alive.
Mm-hmm.
And Starkiller goes one way because his mentor is more aggressive, more evil, more ruthless.
Yep.
And then Dick Grayson into Robin into Nightwing. Like, Nightwing came back because he was like, you're not treating me as an equal, and I am your equal, so I'm going to go off and do my own thing, but I'm going to do it better. So, he is, as a result, less dark than Batman. He's more open to friendships. He's more open to relationships. As I've said before, each of the Robins are supposed to be like a better part of Bruce.
Yeah.
And Dick is the person, is actually better than Bruce. And whether I like it or not, I will always want to find the person that is a person just trying to be their best more relatable. And I think that is a very relatable thing, especially in superhero media. It's like Dick Grayson is nothing special. He is, but he's not got anything extra. He's just trying to do the best he can for the people he cares about.
I think realistically, it's like if you're relating to Starkiller, maybe go to therapy.
Exactly.
Whereas, like,
and that's not a knock. Therapy is good, but if you do find him incredibly relatable, consider it.
Like, whereas Nightwing, at least the way he is written and shown as like he is as shown as a leader, he's trying to be the better person and do the right thing. Like, he is like the young kid who's maybe felt like the sidekick as they're getting older now, standing on the like they can look at Nightwing and see that.
Yes, absolutely. Personal preference.
Purely because I am a Star Wars fanboy, and purely because I am still also desperate for him to appear in live action. Starkiller is my personal preference.
So it's really difficult here because Nightwing kicks ass. He really does. But I know you're not a sports fan to the same degree I am. But in football, we have what's called a streets won't forget baller.
Mm.
And what that tends to be is a person who just kind of exploded for a season or two and was lightning in a bottle and then just kind of disappeared. And they weren't so great that they'll be remembered forever.
Mm.
But they were good enough for a short enough period of time that when someone says the name, you get like a Pixar style flashback where you see the greatest moments. Yeah, that's how I feel about Starkiller.
Mm.
When I think about the media I enjoy and stuff, Starkiller is not a name that is going to constantly come up like Nightwing will. But someone's going to go Force Unleashed Starkiller, and it will literally be that kind of montage. I'll be like, oh yeah, that was some good shit.
Mm.
And I feel like, and it is pure nostalgia bait, that does hit nicer. As someone who, like, inherently, because of the podcast, thinks about pop culture stuff quite a lot, having that something that's like a hit, where I'm like, oh yeah, that was good, I remember that, I think is more important than someone who I can confidently believe is going to be around forever.
It's also like, I put it this way: if Nightwing shows up in the DCU, I'll be like, that's cool. If Starkiller shows up in a Star Wars thing, I'll be like, holy shit, they've finally done it.
It's
like,
exactly
I'm gonna freak out way more. So
we know that Teen Titans is being worked on in the DCU.
yeah.
We know that that's going to be really popular. It's going to be a big budget film, blah, 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 blah. If they were to announce at D23 that they're doing a Starkiller film and Sam Witwer's going to be doing the role, everyone collectively goes, holy shit, I never thought this day was going to come.
Yeah, if the world gets told that Sam Witwer is going to be Starkiller again, everyone knows that's going to be live action.
Yeah. So personal preference for me, I think, would just edge out on Starkiller as well. Pure nostalgia bait.
Fair.
Because if they never do anything else with Starkiller in 30 years, Star Wars fans won't remember him, but we will.
Mm. Yeah, like the hardcore fans will still be like, there's still time.
I believe. Have you seen Sam Witwer's kid? He looks just like him. Imagine.
Right, should we tot up the scores?
Yeah, let's tally this shit up. Iconicness probably has to go to Nightwing.
Yeah, I would agree.
Individuality, we say tie.
I would say a tie. They're very similar in that sense.
Quality, based on how we tend to measure quality, probably goes to Nightwing just for the extended period.
Just has to, I think.
Legacy probably goes to Nightwing.
Yeah, there's just more there.
Relatability is absolutely Nightwing, or you should seek therapy, no judgment. Personal preference went to Starkiller.
Yes.
So that makes it a 3-1 win for Nightwing.
I'm not surprised.
No, it's
Starkiller being on our list of like picks to come out of this.
He was going to lose to most people.
It was purely there for the hardcore Star Wars fans to be like, yes, Starkiller.
In the most respectful way possible, most people on the internet would view Starkiller as a glup shito character.
Here's the thing: most outsiders in the nerd space, at a glance, probably recognize the name Nightwing before Starkiller, but as soon as we start talking about Starkiller, they then maybe wouldn't know. But that's the thing. It's like, it's on the fringe, whereas Nightwing's just past the fringe.
Yeah. I think 10 years ago, when Force Unleashed was a bit more present and Nightwing hadn't had his PR boost, it would have been a bit closer.
Potentially, yeah.
But there we have it. We're back with the Pop Culture Powerhouse, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you get liked, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you comment down below who you'd like to see us discuss next time.
See you next time.